Hello everybody, it's Dylan Milks here for Monday, April the 25th, 2011. It's nice to be with you all again after taking a couple weeks off. Was away on holidays for a little while, so it was nice to get away, but I'm back now and excited to be recording another video here for you. So what a week it's been the last couple of weeks for gold and silver, particularly silver. Gold now is up about 9% this year so far in the first 4 months. Silver is up an amazing 55% so far this year in the first 4 months. And the US dollar continues to drop and to fall, has now lost about 6.5% of its value so far this year. So some amazing developments really in the financial markets, which are really driving the prices of gold and silver right now. The other thing which happened last week, the major announcement from the S&P agency, who basically warned the U.S. government, saying that if they don't get their debt under control, they are at risk of losing their AAA credit rating. So what that means is that the U.S., in order to borrow money, the rate at which the U.S. has to charge would go up quite significantly if they lost their AAA credit rating. So this is interesting because the S&P is really an international, really the global company that rates countries in terms of their stability and their financial situation, the state of their finances, and it helps in order to determine what a rate of interest that is appropriate, that should be charged by that country to borrow money. So when the S&P comes out and warns the U.S. government, saying that because of their massive debt and there's no real significant plan to address it, other than just borrowing more money, when they come out and say that if they don't get their act together, the U.S. is going to be at risk of being downgraded. Their credit rating is being downgraded. That would have a significant impact not only on the world financial markets, but also on interest rates. And anybody who's got variable mortgage rates or credit card rates, stuff like that, those types of things, or even lines of credit, revolving lines of credit, those types of things would increase the rate of interest. So for us in Canada, what does that mean? Well, chances are, that's initially that may not mean much, but with the global economy, really, most countries seem to follow the U.S. And the U.S. really is the driver of the world economy. And whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, the things that go on in the U.S. really have a major impact on the world financial system and on the world economy. So, if something like this if something like this were to happen, really everybody would be affected in one way or the other. And there's a very strong likelihood that shortly after this happened or not, that other countries would start to raise their rates as well. Now, would that be immediate or in the longer term? I don't know, but it's just something to watch out for and to see how the situation plays out. Because apparently now the U.S. is scheduled to hit their debt limit the first or second week of May, is what the latest word on the street is. So basically that means they got a couple more weeks left to get some type of plan together. But the problem is that really nobody's been talking about it. Nobody's really been talking about it. So at this point here, there's really no clear picture or clear vision as to what's going to happen and how this is going to turn out. So the other thing too is that to watch for is with silver. Now silver again has been up 55% this year, which is quite significant because we're only at the end of the 4th month of this year. So people, if anybody's wondering, well, is now a good time to get in or not? My recommendation or my thought is no. I would say, the all-time high for silver is around the $50 mark, which it hit back in 1980, and that was $50 US. So now, at the time of this writing, silver is up to about 46, 60, somewhere around there. So we're getting pretty close to the all-time high, only about $3.50 or so, $3.50 to $4 away from the all-time high. So my thought is what's going to happen is that as we start approaching this all-time high of around $50, $50.50, I believe is what it was. What I can see happening is that there's going to start to see a big sell-off. A lot of people really, that number of the $50 range really represents a lot, based not just historically, but even psychologically. And I think that what we're going to see happening is that once it starts to get to the 49, 50, 51 range, my thought is that we're going to see a major sell-off of silver, and not just a little drop of a few dollars, but I actually think we're going to see a significant drop-off. My expectation is something around the 15 to 20% range. So just to put that in perspective, when silver hits 50, if it did take a turn on the downside, 15% would be about $7.50, and 10% would be about 20% would be about $10. So I would not be surprised at all if we started to see a significant pullback like that, somewhere in the range of $7.50 to $10. Once it either starts approaching that all-time high. Now, whether that's going to happen on the downside of the all-time high, say $50 or $49.50, or whether that's going to happen on the upside, $51, $52, I don't know exactly, but that's one thing I'd be watching out for. So if anybody's really wanting to watch and to see, or thinking about getting into it, what I would say is just watch silver for the next couple weeks. Watch it, see what happens, and check the price, and then watch for a pullback. And the first sign of a pullback, is I think when it would be a good time to get in. The other thing too is I would wait probably a little while, more than just a day or two if it's dropped 2 or 3 days in a row, because typically what I've seen over the last couple of years, as I've been following this a lot, is that oftentimes you'll have many weeks in a row of or even months in a row sometimes of gains in silver, and then all of a sudden you'll have some usually some span of 2 to 4 weeks where it continually drops for about 2 to 4 weeks in a row, really without any gains. So that would be something to watch out for, is to keep your eye on for that if you are considering getting into it at this point. Now, my own personal belief is that there's still a long way to go, a long way to go in this silver run, which has really been quite astronomical in the last year and a half or so. But again, you got to look at it from a long-term perspective. When you look at this situation with silver from the 50,000 foot level, even at at $46, I still think it's a no-brainer, because of the fundamentals of not only the industrial demand but also the investment demand, and the fact that people are losing faith in paper currencies, and are really starting to move towards commodities like gold, silver, oil, and even food commodities as well. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So the other thing too is that so I think that's hopefully that'll help you all out if anybody's considering, kind of wondering, well, is it too late to get in or not? Again, keep looking at it from the 50,000 foot level, and look at it from a 5 to 10 to 15 year perspective. And I certainly believe that even as we approach $50, it's still a good time to get in. But again, watch the markets, watch for a pullback, and use that as a timing point to get in. The other thing I want to point out, which I think is very important, is that you'll really want to watch the price in US dollars, not in Canadian dollars, not in Australian dollars, not in euros, but in US dollars, because commodities around the world are traded in US dollars. And it's the US dollar benchmark, or the US dollar measurement stick, that really represents the sort of the tipping point for either it going down or up. So again, when I talk about the all-time high of being just over $50 US, you'll have to compare that to the current world market price, again in US dollars, because I believe that as we approach that number, that's when we're going to start to see some changes. start to see some sell-off. So hopefully you guys found this video informative, and take care, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.